Welcome to the latest installment of the Run to Daylight Show, Bestball Study Hall. I am your host, Todd from PA, Todd Burrows, and I will be bringing in someone new today, Powell Mleczko, and you can find him at under do_me_favors on Twitter. He works for 1 Week Season, my former gig. And he also is a heavy use best ball player. And I've kind of gotten the urge to go back to my roots of interviewing people. And so we're going to find out about, is it Powell or Paul?
Either way, Paul works, Pavel, either way.
Pavel. It's Pavel. It's the W throws you off, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't have it in front of me, and I don't know. I was telling him that I got here a little late, and so I'm a little off. This podcast is brought to you by my friends over at Underdog Fantasy. We're mostly going to be talking Underdog Fantasy. They dropped a really intriguing contest, the Bulldog. I would like to do a bunch of them, but I was already kind of tapped out with my plans. But I am going to do at least one. It's a 6 entry minimum. It is, I just love, there needs to be more contests like this, Pavel, where 4 of the 12 people advance. And then I think it's 2 of 6 or 2 of 8 and 2 of 8 again to get to the finals, which is 8 people.
Yeah.
36 people times 6 equals 216. So 36 people could, if they got all their drafts in, could fill this contest. So I love this contest, Pavel. And what are your thoughts on it? And are you going to be digging into a $500 best ball?
I actually have one I already started. I'm the 10 spot. I'm waiting to get to my spot. I love the contest. Love lower entry max, higher dollar, and I love the format. I love the top 4 that move on.
I don't love higher dollar because I'm a cheap bastard. I've already got, probably I'm going to put like 10 grand into best ball. So that's not a small amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And, to max this out, it's another 3 grand. It doesn't seem like much. And as much as you believe in yourself, Pavel, you and I both know it's things can go against you pretty quickly, especially in a 6 entry max where all the normal exposure things that we do to kind of leverage our injury risk kind of go out the window in a tournament like this.
Agreed. Yeah, I was actually just thinking about it. I have like a situation now. I'm hoping Najee falls to me at 10. But at that point, I'm looking at a wide receiver, and I don't really want to go wide receiver early, or Dalvin Cook. But like, if it was like a normal big, BBM contest, I'd take Dalvin Cook, get that exposure right there. But do I think Dalvin Cook's going to stay healthy all year? I have, my doubts on him. So he's someone I might shy away from in this contest because, I want to get the guys I'm most confident in, especially like you say, since it's lower maximum entry, you kind of throw away all our exposure, rules that we make for ourselves.
Got an early question from friend of the show, Henry Muto. Where are all your live FFPC and underdog drafts this year? I don't know what you mean by that, Henry. So if you could elaborate what you mean a little more, we'll answer that. New guy, Mad Sox. Probably want to wait late as possible to draft that contest unless you want to grab dudes you think could rise in ADP. That contest is going to close within a week. It's already 35% full, Mad Sox. So I am going to wait to the end, but because I'm only going to do one. Because my thought is the guys who are, and I'm not afraid of anyone, but that doesn't mean that I have, I need to get into a pissing contest with the best players in a contest like this. My plan, Pavel, is to try and get in one of the last 2 drafts for my one. That way, a lot of the 6 entry guys are already got their 6. And I'm dealing with hopefully a couple guys who are stragglers. Thoughts on that?
Actually, I really like that idea. Yeah, we're already at 50% now, so this thing is flying. But yeah, I love that idea actually, because all the big dogs are in the first few already.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's my edge. My edge is drafting smart, being smart. I think that the other thing is, I think this is so popular, there's going to be another one, and it'll be closer to the season. And that one, I will probably look to do more than one, right? Hopefully, they come back with one that's maybe 800 entries. If they could fill 200 entries in 8 to 10 days, which is all it's going to take, I'd like to think we're going to see another one of these. Do you agree?
oh, totally agree. Yeah. Underdog's great about seeing what works and doing that. And like, I think we're going to have like 5 puppies this year because they're just flying this year too.
Yeah.
We,
And I think they're going to keep the puppies. Maybe, I like what they did making it super flex, because I didn't feel the need to play. I don't mix up. I already mentioned how much money I'm spending. It's not a little bit of money, right?
mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is because I like to have good exposure on the FFPC. $125 an entry. You can get 50 of them is over 6,000 right there. Plus, I'm saying 10. I have a shot to get close to 15 this year.
Realistically, it's going to be more than 10.
If things end up the way that they look like. But the good news is that you're going to get some of it back. And on the FFPC, if you can have a good pass-through rate, you get 300. And I guess the point I'm trying to make here is, if you are one of the top 4 teams of the 12 in this Bulldog, you get $600.
Mm-hmm.
Did I misunderstand that?
No, that's how I understand it as well.
So I love contests like that,
Me
right?
too.
Because then if I do, 33 advance, if I can figure that I'm better than the average and I can get 50%, right? If I do 6 and that means that's $3,000, I get 18 back and I got 3 lottery picks to try and make back the rest of my money. That's kind of how I look at contests. What's interesting about the BB Mania, that's my one kind of, and the puppy. The puppy's so cheap, I don't care.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, but before that's going to take me down a row I don't want to get to yet. I want to get to know you a little bit. Tell us about yourself, where you're from, and how you came up with the name Do Me Favors.
Yeah. So I grew up in Chicago, and then once I graduated college, I didn't want to work, so I decided to go to grad school. Applied to just 2 schools, ended up going to the University of Tampa. Now I live in Florida, never moving back to the snow. I found out about Bestball back in the day when draft was live from our friend Noah, and I just saw him post the line. I'm like, what is that? And ever since then, it's been go, go, go. And on the name, I'm a huge basketball fan, like NBA, DFS probably. It's like my main sport that I play. And I remember watching TV, and I have like the Game Pass or the League Pass, and I'm watching a Jazz game, and Derek Favors just like comes out of nowhere and slams one in, and the announcer's like, "Do me favors, Derek Favors." And that just stuck for me for then, and I've always just kept that name for like my blogs and stuff. And yeah, now I just use that name.
What do you do for a living?
I'm an accountant.
Good with numbers.
Yeah, so I do this by day, and then at night I also live log stats for the Lightning, sometimes the Orlando Magic, and some NCAA games and stuff. So it's pretty cool. So I stay really busy.
You get paid for that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool. How much do you get?
A couple, less than $100 per game, but it's, I get to sit in the media box and get all the bells and whistles. So it's pretty fun, and I enjoy getting out of the house, especially.
That's a lot of fun. Are you married?
Yes, just got married actually.
I'm sure she loves it.
Oh, she's gonna put an end to it soon. But yeah, enjoying it while I can. A couple years ago, I was doing like every single Magic game and Lightning game, so I was busy, 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 never home. But now I don't really do the Magic games anymore because it's a little further. I'm out in the Tampa area.
Cool. That is very, very interesting. So let's talk best ball. Tell me where you play and, what percentage would you say your money goes into each site?
Um, so I mainly play underdog. It's just the most like it's the best draft experience. It doesn't I could do cash, tournament, whatever. Just love drafting on there. I do the drafters tournament. I got second last year. Just missed first place by 0.16 points, so that was devastating. But I like that contest because it's a cumulative contest. So I think that's like a different type of strategy you apply to that tournament, and it's nice to do something different from the normal 0.5 PPR best ball, and then with the tournament format. And then also like you, I love that FFPC contest, love the format of that. So I've been doing some of that $30 Superflex right now just to, get in touch with the ADP on the site and just see where like certain players are going. And then I'll start doing the 125s once we start getting more information because I like to do the bigger dollar contests closer to the start of the year when we have as much information as we possibly have. Even though I'm not really doing that with the Best Ball Mania, I'm almost 2/3 done because I've been flying through those. And then I've done some NFC. I've done some RTS. I like to draft really anywhere. I'll do the DraftKings like the $5 milli, but for me, like the main is FFPC and Underdog as well, and some drafters.
What are you doing with 1 week season this year?
Me and Hilo are doing the weekly or the Best Ball podcast for now, the introductory, and then
you and Hyla?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so we've done one podcast. We just did one on Thursday this week, and then
he's a pilot. You have to keep bringing him back down to earth.
Oh, Hilo's the best. He's definitely got the galaxy brains of galaxy brains.
He does. He does. And I was shocked. I had him on last week. Like last year, he was doing all this crazy stuff that I hated, like drafting the second and third Texans wide receiver. And I'm like, dude, you don't even know that those are the second and third wide receiver. There's like 8 guys there. And, and he, that's where we were good for each other because he puts me on thoughts that exactly. I can't get to.
Exactly.
And I am really, if I was going to say what my strength is that I'm really well thought out and balanced, right? If I have a weakness, it's that at times I can be a little, like if I should be at 60 to 65% risk, I can slip into the 50s. Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, since I mentioned risk, the number one most important thing that defines my best ball strategy in the NFL, and it changes completely once I play season long, is my exposures and how I handle exposure. What are your thoughts on exposures? And how do you like to play?
Yeah, so for me, exposure is very important. I probably look at my exposure almost daily because I'll do anywhere between like 2 to 5 drafts a day. So that kind of can move the needle if you go too hard on one guy. So yeah, I'm looking at who am I undervalued on, who am I overvalued on. If I like see some let's say I see like some.
So I got to stop you and ask you, please define what is overvalued and undervalued. And split it up between the first 2 to 3 rounds and the rest of the draft.
Yeah, so first couple rounds, I don't want to fade anyone, and I want to be at least even to almost everyone, unless there's someone I really like. So early rounds, I'll be willing to push someone to about, like 15, 16%, almost about double the field. I don't want to really fade anyone early. One guy like this year, I've been kind of fading. I have like maybe 3-4% Deebo Samuel. I just, don't really believe that he can hold up for a whole entire year. So there's kind of like that risk built in. So then I'll be a little less on him. The later we go in a draft, I'm more willing to take on more exposure. So if it's like an 18th round guy, like for example, like Zay Jones, I'm almost probably 40% him. Because, I really like him as a starter, his opportunity. He's got a good opportunity there. They finally have a coach that's competent. And when I'm drafting it so far out of the season, there's going to be.
You look at your draft and you basically go, oh, Zay, can I see?
Yeah, basically. But when I'm going high on these like 18 rounders, I'm hoping they're going to grow throughout the offseason. So like Julio Jones is falling to the 17th, 8th round. Kendrick Bourne somehow falls to the 17th, 8th round. And I'm willing to be 30-40% on these guys, because by the end of the offseason I'll be around 20, 25, 30%. Like, I don't really want to cross more than 30% on anyone, because that, I think, then we're just hitting more risk than I'm really wanting to take on, especially after last year. I was very, very high on Gus Edwards. I was almost like 35-40%, and I pumped the brakes at one point, and I'm glad I did, because he ended up getting hurt. Yeah, he was in a smash position, but you still have to remember, this is football and these people can get hurt, so you don't want to overexpose yourself and take zeros too soon.
Yeah. I'm big, and I have been for a number of years, on win rates. And it's so funny because I have so many guys who like to swing their dick around on Twitter and talk about, no risk, no reward, no biscuit, no Triscuit. I don't know, whatever the sayings that they like to use. But it's not that and some people say, well, you're kind of they basically intimate that you're being a pussy if you're not willing to go heavy on guys. And my thing is 15% round 1 and 2. I've added that I don't want to be less than 4 or 5 on guys, because I've just had the most amazing luck of being 3% on like some of the best guys each of the last 3 years. But injury in the first 2 rounds drops your win rate anywhere, your advance rate from 17% to as low as 4%.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just, you got 40, now if that happens, you're pretty much done, unless you've got that one magic team that somehow makes it to the finals. I agree with everything you said. I'm willing to go 35% early. I'm not at this point, but I'm willing, in theory. Yeah. And the reason I don't get there this year is less about risk tolerance and more about using later picks as correlations. And so I'm mixing more than I ever have.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk. So we agree on that. And we agree on why, correct?
Yeah. I have one more thing on the diversity thing. If you just
I think people of any color, women, everyone should be able to play best ball.
I totally agree. But one thing,
you meant different diversity.
One thing I like, because I studied finance in school, and like the one thing that, like, when you take a basic finance class to teach you is don't put your eggs in one basket, right? Diversity, diversity, diversity. Like, that's the biggest thing they push towards you. And if you apply that toward this, why shouldn't you apply this towards this? If you have one bad share, it can tank your entire portfolio, right? And that's kind of the approach I really take to it.
But what about if that guy is the best guy and you're right? And I've had some very good friends in this over the last 7 years. Joe Pano was one of them. His first year, he was 40 to 50% on everyone, and all his key ones hit. He had an amazing year. Next year, they all got hurt or sucked. Mm-hmm. And, I haven't seen him be a volume player since. Your bankroll is, again, I could afford to lose 15,000, but if I did, I'd never want to play again.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah.
If I put in 15 and I get 8 back, well, I'm going to play at least that 8 in the next year. Right? Exactly. So I find that people who are arrogant, and unfortunately, people who are arrogant also tend to be reckless, right? So it's like, I mentioned the big swinging dicks. Those are the guys who, like to put you down on Twitter. Those are the guys who, it's one thing if you're building, what they're missing is the most important thing is to make great lineups.
Exactly.
And mixing your exposure is part of doing that as well.
Totally agree. Yeah. There's more than just drafting good guys. You can draft all the good guys and still lose. You want to, like, a big thing I see is a lot of people, posting they drafted 7 wide receivers first 7 rounds, and then their tight ends suck, their quarterbacks suck, and they have 4 running backs, 3 of which are like backup running backs. How are you going to win like that? Sure, you might hit the outlier.
One of the big edges is all these sites talk about zero RB or fragile 4 running backs.
Yep.
What this year it's Anchor because Anchor won last year, so now you're seeing a ton of Anchor. It's not about what throws the numbers off is there's tons of people who think they're doing zero RB but build it terribly. Right? They don't take a running back till the 9th round and they stop at 5.
Yeah.
Right? Now, a really good drafter could do that once in a while and have 5 really intriguing running backs. But your average drafter who does that, it's like one guy with a floor and 4 prayers. And they think that they're doing zero RB. No, that team needs 7 running backs. Right?
And then it's still dead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on who the guys are.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I'm talking.
But that's one of the big edges guys like you and I have.
Yeah.
Is that we know that there's more to building a good roster than just the name of your strategy in that particular draft.
Agreed.
And I'm way more interested in zero running back this year because running backs last longer than they ever have, good ones.
Yep.
And B, not as many people are doing zero this year because it hasn't been a good strategy for the last couple years. So I've done more zero running back teams this year than I have probably in the last 2 years combined.
Me too, actually. I don't love the zero RB strategy, but like you said, you need to. You've said this in the podcast before. You can't just do one type of draft style. So obviously, I will mix it up. But this year, especially, you're right. There's that pocket of like from 9 to 13. There are every round you can get a decent, upside running back, like from the Rashad Penny.
And 13 to 14 to 15, you still got guys like Henderson.
Yeah,
the Madison, the true backup types.
Yep. Yeah. So this year, I feel like you just said, like the running backs have fallen just slightly and lasting just longer, where you can build out your entire team, hit the 2 QBs in like the QB window, get an elite tight end, and you can build a really strong high upside zero RB team that way.
So what's your favorite basic roster construction, and how do you tend to move off it from there?
Yeah. So in an ideal state, I like to start running back, elite tight end, and then get 1 or 2 QBs before like Derek Carr's off the board. That's my like ideal strategy. But I don't pigeon myself because I mean I'm a volume drafter like you. I let the first couple rounds dictate what my draft will be, right? So if I end up with a couple wide receivers early, we're going to hit the other positions and then come back to wide receiver. One thing that I would say that stays consistent is I love ending the draft with wide receiver because there's from like 15 through 18, there's so many great boom wide receivers with upside. Like I was just mentioning, Kendrick Bourne, Julio, Zay Jones, Cedric Wilson, Fuller, yeah,
Justin Ross.
I even like Peoples-Jones in the 18th round now. Why not?
Zay Jones, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't draft enough of him because he's not exciting. And I haven't been taking a lot of Trevor Lawrence, although I think that he's a good pick this year. He just goes right around when Justin Fields goes.
Oh, I love Fields
and give me the guy with the rushing floor.
Agreed. Yeah.
But 2 rookie quarterbacks, one's going to run for 50, 60 yards every week, and one's going to run for 15.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think that brings up a key point, which is playing the draft for value.
Mm-hmm.
And you just mentioned something exactly what I'm doing is really as much love as I have for running back position this year. It does end right around round 15, right?
Yep.
Once Dante Foreman goes off the board, you're really kind of
it's not
guessing.
Yeah.
You're really guessing at that point. Yeah. Marlon Mack,
Chris
Foreman,
Evans, Ingram, Kenyon Drake.
And so, if I know I can get the last 3 rounds with pretty good wide receivers, why wouldn't I do that in most of my drafts? So I think that's a key point. Do you want to reiterate on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Other places, I guess what I'm saying is, where are other places in the whole draft where you're finding strength at each position?
Yeah, that probably 8 to 12 is pretty much like where you can find any good position there, because then I think wide receiver tapers off for a little bit and then picks back up. So I jump ship towards wide receiver from like 12 to 15-ish, especially since a lot of the guys I liked early steamed highly, like Dotson. Dotson was so late earlier in the offseason. So
And I haven't been drafting him. He'll probably go nuts. I've got a lot of Curtis Samuel.
Oh, I like Curtis Samuel as well. He's healthy now.
And if you like McLaurin and you like Dotson and you like Samuel, sometimes I'll take a third quarterback. Not that I like taking a third quarterback, but Carson Wentz is just too cheap.
Oh, yeah.
And who's the other one that's late that's a good?
Tannehill. I actually came around on Tannehill now. I was not on the Tannehill board, but now I can see him as a decent late pick now, especially after doing the Superflex draft. I really thought through him more, and he's going way too late. He's got a shot at 300 points. If you got a shot at 300 points with the third to last quarterback in the draft, it's a pretty good shot.
Yeah. So I tend to be 2.592. Okay. I want to answer my own question. So I think just the opposite with wide receivers. There's very few pockets this year, other than late, where I feel that wide receivers are the best value on the board, because people talk about dead zone running backs. Well, all that's done is it's pushed wide receivers up. Mm-hmm. I think as early as the end of round 2, beginning of round 3, there's a lot of projecting going on and wishful thinking going on at the wide receiver position. So I think the key to drafting this year is when you take your wide receivers, because you can get running backs pretty much wherever you want them. You can get great tight ends pretty much wherever you want them. Would you agree with that?
100%. And I feel that like the 4 to 6 round range where we always get like a wide receiver breakout. We had last year Cooper Kupp, the year before that Diggs. I think this year and Ridley was in that like breakout. I think this year that breakout group is really big. I think it's much larger than it usually is. Right after like round 5, 6, 7. So you have DK Metcalf in the 5th round now. You have McLaurin in the 5th round now. I love Drake London, Amon-Ra. Like there's a lot of guys with really high upside that can, possibly jump to the top 12. So I love taking.
You didn't mention my favorite.
Who is your favorite?
Mooney.
I love Mooney as well. Yeah.
He's a number 1 receiver on a brand new offense that's going to be a better offense most likely. I think that Terry McLaurin has been mispriced. And let me look real quick. Where am I at on McLaurin?
Even Amari Cooper has fallen to a 6th round.
I agree. And the Deshaun Watson hate has dropped, fear has dropped Amari even further. I somehow just don't see them running Jacoby Brissett out there. I think that they'll use Mayfield to get someone else back.
Exactly. I think they would get someone. Exactly.
Whether it's Darnold, whether it's,
Garoppolo, even
Lock or Gino, in the 2 most likely places. So wide receiver, my top 3 owned wide receivers right now are Wan'Dale Watt Robinson, DJ Shark, who I think is just way too cheap.
I like Shark.
Kendrick Bourne, Allen Robinson, and Terry McLaurin, all 17% or higher. And Mooney, as much as I like him, I'm at 16%. So I feel like I agree with you that area, and then late, like Donovan Peoples-Jones, Corey Davis.
Davis, way
Tim
too
Patrick,
cheap.
His price has gone up. but he was so cheap for a while.
I'm almost 20% Tim Patrick. I love him.
I was 30%. Now
Yeah.
I'm down to 14 because
You got to
I'm
jump.
taking Russ less because the price on his first two options has gotten to the point where I don't want them.
Yeah, I don't want to take Sutton. I don't have any Judy at this price at all. I might have drafted Judy like a couple times this year because I just don't like. I like all the players around him instead.
Mad Sox says MVS going way too late. He's actually moved up a little bit.
Yes, but he's a great
He
pick
was
too.
a guy that I was taking in probably 30 to 40% of drafts when they first, right after they got him, and he was still in like the 13th round.
Yeah, he's a great pick. My top wide receivers are James Washington, Kendrick Bourne, Zay Jones, Julio Jones, Christian Kirk, Drake London, Tim Patrick, Hollywood, the great Gabe Davis, and Russell Gage. And Russell Gage, I don't think I've drafted much of lately, but
No,
I was
you bought before the
throwing him
and
in.
that's the thing that you understand that not everyone does. That you play it's you're a value drafter. You draft guys in a pocket when they're value.
Yep.
And so one of my favorite roster construction tweaks, or what I like to call advanced roster construction, is, and I noticed it was very successful for me last year. Some of my best teams had two quarterbacks in the 5 or 6 to 12 or 13 range. I don't really consider Carr in that range. But I draft him sometimes, and I consider Fields in that range, even though he's slipped to like 15th. But Dak, Russell Wilson, Stafford, Brady, Russ, that historically is the area where you get the best winning percentage.
Yeah.
Other than if you have a rookie or like Lamar year or Mahomes year. That's really tends to be where you get the best value, is that second tier. Taking two in that tier is one of my advanced roster construction tweaks. You mentioned quarterback and also tight end. Why don't you explain?
Yeah, so I'm with you on the quarterback. I love getting two elite quarterbacks. You don't have to waste a spot on a third quarterback then. It's like super simple, right? But it's a huge difference. And I have another spot for a running back or a tight or wide receiver wherever I need one, right? And one guy I really like this year is Kyler. He's a 13th round buy, so he fits with everyone. So that's why, I'm a huge Kyler fan. I like that.
You're the third guy. I got to reconsider. You're the third guy I respect. Dwayne McFarland was one who loves Kyler. Let me make the anti-Kyler case. All right. 1, he's little. 2, he's a little bitch. And more the second one, because I don't care that he's little. He just seems like the whiny type. And hasn't gotten the contract. Like, he came out with that whole contract thing. I've noticed that there's certain type of players who play well when they're unhappy, and there's certain type of players who don't. So you've got the risk that he gets injured and misses a few games, right? Because he runs and he's small. But I could see, he was my number one known quarterback over the last 2 years. And I just feel like, his weapons are too expensive. I think Hopkins and Hollywood are both too expensive for, what they are, because that offense does mix it around, right? Yep. They'll throw to an Antoine Wesley. They'll throw to a Christian Kirk. They'll throw to an AJ Green. They'll throw to a Zach Ertz. And there's a lot of them, right? It's not, what are we looking for? We're looking for guys who get volume. If you look at, other than Hopkins 2 years ago, there's been nobody on the Cardinals who's gotten heavy volume. So, and Kyler hasn't dropped all that much. He's still going right around Lamar and Herbert and Mahomes. So, not that I'm avoiding him, Where I tend to take him is I love Kyle Pitts in the third.
Oh, I love him.
So, if there's nobody else that I really like when Kyler's on the board, that's when I've been getting my Kyler exposure because I don't have to overpay for Hollywood. I can get Zach Ertz. I can get, some of his other weapons. Or sometimes with Pitts, I also have Connor. So that's my anti-case. What's your pro case? And what do you think of my anti-case?
I see your point, right? I do see it.
I can see the wheels coming off for Arizona this year. I think Cliff is the kind of guy who could lose the team. When do guys typically lose the team? Third year, fourth year.
So they replaced Kirk with Hollywood, right? Former college teammate,
Correct.
Hollywood as well. And what is Kyler's best strengths? A, he's a really good runner, and B, he's one of the best deep passers in the NFL. And they replaced Christian Kirk, who's a decent, really good player, with one of the best deep ball catchers in the NFL. AJ Green, everyone calls him washed. I still am buying AJ Green. The guy can still give me 100, 120 points this year, especially with Hopkins out for the first 6 weeks. Hopkins, I get, the suspension's there, and you can build a team. If you have like a well-built team and you can fit him, take him. I'm not huge into buying Hopkins. I bought him more in the super flex tournament because like the 2 wide receiver spots, so it's a little different. But I just believe I believe in Kyler. He's one of the best deep passers in the NFL. And, if the wheels fall off, the wheels fall off, but it's the risk I'm willing to take, especially he's not priced as the quarterback 1. He's priced as quarterback 4 or 5. And historically, QB1 has never repeated until Josh Allen did it last year. So just like you, I don't like buying those like the top tier quarterbacks. I like taking that next tier under that can jump into that next tier.
I kind of treat quarterbacks like I treat first and second round picks.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, you rarely get a quarterback unless it's like Lamar and Mahomes. 13th, 14th round guys had MVP seasons and they barely cracked 20% win rates.
Yeah.
Right? You don't win with quarterbacks, right? You don't advance. Let me put it that way. You don't advance with just quarterbacks historically. So I treat them, again, I don't want to have less than 5% of any of the really good ones. Yeah. And I don't want to have more than 15%. Right? And I think a good hard and fast rule with any player is don't draft anybody more than they can get a win rate.
That's a really good advice.
So wide receivers and running backs, 25, 30% theoretically. Yeah, I'll do it because wide receivers and running backs will get you that kind of win rate. The other thing I noticed is if you nail that, like I had 21% Debo last year. You know what percentage of my Debo lineups won?
None.
63%.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to go the opposite way. Wow.
No.
Damn. That's crazy.
If you build solid, those mid-tier guys that you get right and you build that fit, and it was, I'd have to pull it up. I did a whole podcast on it. But the early guys, even a guy like Cooper Kupp in the 4th, I had a 50% win rate on a guy, advance rate on a guy who had about a 50 advance rate. Taylor, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to lap those high win rates. Where you can really crush is being significantly overweight on a guy who, like a Debo, 8th, 9th round.
And he was in that window. Yeah,
they're a top 5 player. And if you build solid teams, you can get amazing win rates from that position. Thoughts?
Absolutely. And he's in that quarterback window there, or that wide receiver window. He was like, 6th or 7th or 8th rounder, like right there where they can break out. And moving to your other question, you asked about tight end strategy. So for me also, similarly, I want one elite tight end in every draft. I want Waller, I want Kittle, I want Andrews, I want Kelsey or Pitts, even Dalton Schultz. But now Dalton Schultz is like a 6th rounder. I was buying him when he was like 8th to 10th rounder. if I miss on like one of those elite tight ends, I'm more than okay taking 3 late tight ends. Like I love Pat Fryermuth, love Wakeham, love Cole Kmet, Everett. What's his name from the Giants that just went to the Jags?
Ingram.
Ingram. Yep, love Ingram this year. Fant is too cheap, so I think tight end this year is like you play it either two ways. You either take one elite guy with an upside wide one. So I love taking like a Meg Andrews with Gerald Everett, or then you just take 3 tight ends late and hopefully one of those guys breaks out. So I feel like this year, we say this every year, but I feel like this year we're actually have a deeper tight end pool. Hunter Henry's another guy I love. Loved Hunter Henry this year.
I've been overweight on Hunter Henry every year, but there are a couple guys in his range that I think, because he was so TD dependent, there are a couple guys in his range. Fant, you mentioned.
Yep.
Everett is an interesting choice. Let me pull up my tight end exposure. Irv Smith is one.
I actually like Irv Smith. A lot of people don't seem to see that scenario working, but I think the Vikings are going to pass more. Kirk Cousins has been a QB1.
Everyone loved Irv Smith last year. He
Yeah,
got
and now
hurt.
they're off of him. I don't get it. Now
You
they
know,
got rid of
he
John
didn't
Lynch.
like screw somebody's wife.
Yeah, he got rid of
All right.
Jonathan.
So first of all, my elite tier includes Goddard
Okay.
and Hawkinson. Right.
Okay.
So if I get those two, I'm still good with doing 2, but I move up when I want my second guy.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So like if I could get Hawkinson and Kmet, if I can get Goddard and Kmet, I have a lot of Ingram. I like Gesicki because he's a spike week guy.
Don't love
Irv
his
Smith,
price, but I think if he falls,
in Joku. I think I got through Fryermuth. Any of those names I mentioned, except Everett, are guys that I'm willing to have as 2 and then stop. I think there's enough to get you what you need, because you got 2 guys who actually could be top 5, right? Would it shock you if Cole Kmet was top 5?
no, they don't have anyone to pass
or
to.
top 7?
Yeah, they don't have anyone to pass to. He
Right.
could get 150.
And he has talent. He has draft
Yeah.
capital. He
Yeah,
played well. The one thing he didn't get was touchdowns, and Jimmy Graham's gone.
exactly.
Right. So, yeah, I like that tight end strategy. I'm most heavy, and I was drafting a lot of Gronk, and I will continue to draft. It's a high-low thing, so I
Yeah,
probably
I was
should.
gonna say.
Probably shouldn't do it. But especially in the FFPC where it's 20 rounds, I think taking Gronk in the 18th, 19th round. I mean, I kicked myself because in early Bestball, I took a little bit of Brady in the 20th. And I kept telling Billy Musia, we need to get more. I kept telling my other partner, Shane Hollum, we need to take more Brady in the 20th. There's a good chance he comes back, right? And the worst thing is being right and then not having enough, right? So I do think, especially on Underdog, where you're looking to be, I think Hilo got this one right. I do think that, now he's going to, but then he'll go 80% Gronk, right? Like, I feel like you get the same with 20%,
Yeah,
right?
because you're going to have 20% more than anyone else has later. Yeah, no one's going to be drafting him.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so it's kind of you're an accountant, right? You understand blending numbers, right? To get to an agreed upon range of financial safety, right? And I feel the same way.
Yeah. It's the risk. Basically, is how I judge risk reward, essentially.
Mad Sox says Jared Allen is great. Allen's great, but hard pill to swallow in the second. I think we both agreed that's true. Here's one. Your thoughts. Jonnu is free.
If I miss out on Hooper or Brevin Jordan, that's my emergency tight end.
Yeah, and I've been so overweight on Jonnu the last few years. I'm finally done. Finally done. I'm just not drafting him.
Here's what's going to happen. Hunter Henry's going to get one of his patented 8-week injuries, and Jonnu is going to come in and smash for 8 weeks. Hot take of the day.
I think Brevin Jordan is a guy I don't take enough because I don't take a third tight end. Just like I don't have enough Davis Mills because I don't take enough third quarterbacks.
I just don't go that deep into quarterback. Like the lowest really I've been going is like if I'm in an emergency, Mac Jones is my QB2 or Tannehill now.
Yeah, I don't mind. I wish I had a little bit more Mac Jones. Daniel Jones is my guy. I think that the Giants see, what am I looking for? I'm looking for three things. I'm looking for a guy who's shown that he can put up big weeks. Daniel Jones has. I'm looking for guys that are underpriced because the field is missing something. Well, I feel like the field is missing, whether it was Barkley, who was one of my top owned guys through the early parts. The Giants have a huge upgrade at play caller, huge upgrade at offensive line, and they're being drafted like those things hadn't changed. So I think Tony's price has moved up, but Wandell is way too cheap. Galladay's way too cheap. Daniel Jones is too cheap. So what I like is not only can I get Daniel Jones, but I can get his weapons cheap. And then I can mix it with some nice correlations. They play the Vikings late. I can get Irv Smith. I can get Osborne. And then week 17, you can get Paris Campbell late.
Yeah.
And Pierce late. So that is one of the things that I really like to do. Who are some late stacks that you do like?
Oh, man. Marvin Jones, Zay Jones, Kendrick Bourne.
So you basically Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
Like if you miss, sometimes you're planning who your second stack's going to be, and you get sniped, right?
Yep.
You'll see quarterbacks go 3 rounds earlier than they should. Like sometimes I'll look for Jameis Winston, and I'll be like, where the fuck is he?
He got my team.
And he went like 2 rounds earlier, and I'm like, to a guy who doesn't even have a saint. And that kind of stuff happens.
I had that happen yesterday. I started Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, blah blah blah. Got Adam Thielen. Guy took Kirk Cousins a round before me. Why? It makes no sense.
All right, so let's talk about correlation. Guys like Hyler were saying, well, everyone's doing it. To me, it's the same thing as what we talked about before with zero running back. I don't care. I mean, I do care that a lot of people are doing something, right? I want to hit them where they ain't. But so many people are only correlating week 17. And there's plenty of people who still don't correlate. So what are your thoughts on correlation, and what's your strategy with it, and how far are you willing to reach to do it?
Okay. So for me, I try to stack every team I can, and it doesn't have to be quarterback with pass catcher stacks, right? Let's say like I missed the quarterback and I can just stack a whole team's pass catchers. I'll do that. Like I like to do like a Jacoby Myers with, if let's say Devontae fell to me, and then get Kendrick Bourne and get the whole offense. You can do that. You say one thing that I really, really like, and is especially like earlier in the draft, I don't drop a tier to complete a stack, because then you're just losing out on valuable points.
I'm willing to do that more than I have, but only for quarterback.
Yeah, makes sense. But I'm not going to take, like, let's say there's a wide receiver A and wide receiver B. Wide receiver B completes my stack, but wide receiver X I project for like 75 more points this year. I'm going to take wide receiver A because I want to make the tournament, right? Like, it's like it's a balancing game, right? Yeah, correlation's nice, it looks great and everything, but you still have to build solid, well-rounded rosters with no holes. That's the key. You're not going to win this tournament with holes in your roster. So that's when you're dropping that tier, you're leaving yourself susceptible to leaving a hole on your team, right? So that's for me. I like I said, I try to stack any which way I can. I have some week 7. I know who's on the team, on my team. I'll know who's like their week 16, 17 opponent. And if that comes there, it's like a tiebreaker for me. But I want to just build the best possible team every time I build one. And that's kind of my
And,
idea.
and I've come off that a little bit. And it's something I always preached, and I know you listened to me a lot
Yeah.
over the last couple of years. And, you know, what good is my 30% pass through rate if none of my teams make it to the final? Right? And that's what happened to me the last 2 weeks, 2 years. 30% pass through rates and get eliminated in the semifinals. Now, some of that's probably just bad luck,
Yeah.
right? But I'm willing to give up some of that advance rate to have week 17 and week 16 correlations. That being said, you know, so when I draft, what I do is I'll go to the draft board and let's say I'm 10 picks away. And I'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because those are the 10 guys most likely to go.
Yeah.
I will look at the next 10 or 15 guys to see, A, is there someone who's in the same tier or that I like even better that should be in my queue? And then as I go, I am keeping track of who my week 16 and week 17 correlations are. And I will put those players in my queue. So that way, when I'm on the clock and I've only got 30 seconds, I can quickly determine how much am I giving up to get a correlation. And I'm willing to do it more than I would in the past. There's no set, like a tier might, sometimes I won't even drop half a tier to do a strategy. Now I absolutely will, if I have them in the same tier, I'm taking the correlation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've stretched. It's still a balance, but
Yeah.
I've stretched how far I'm willing to go because I want my teams to kind of look like a family tree by the time we're done. So-and-so's married to so-and-so who was married to so-and-so, this stack, this correlation. And you mentioned a point. Last year, I was in the final 12 on FFPC. 11 of us had Mark Andrews, but only 2 of us also had Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Stacking without the quarterback is a very, very viable strategy because especially with the guys who, have that 40-week potential, because it's an old DFS strategy. That JM talks about, that Hilo talks about, which is in Blender, if so-and-so is going to fail, who's the high ownership guy is going to fail, who's likely to benefit from that?
Exactly.
Well, if Mark Andrews gets you to the week 17, if Kittle gets you to week 17, well, it's nice to have not Jawan Jennings, but
have Debo, have Ayuk.
No, not Debo. Ayuk.
Yeah, Ayuk.
Debo's too expensive.
True. Yeah, it's hard to get both.
Last year, perfect. So putting a round 7 or 8 guy with, Lockett and Metcalf. I normally don't do it because you can't stack them, but historically they hit really big on different weeks.
They do, exactly.
Right.
I still draft them together. It's just something I like to do. And it's the best way to, like, I can't really put it better than you put it. You're just, when one guy has a bad week, most likely this other guy's going to have a big week. And it's just a great way to put it. I don't know if you believe in the Jets offense, but something I've done is like Elijah, Garrett Wilson, and Corey Davis, same team. Like,
no, because I don't. I think that offense is because Berrios is. It's the same thing as my stack huffing rule. Berrios is a significant threat as a 4th option.
Yeah,
and they also have Conklin. I don't see any of those guys getting a huge workload. So I liked, in situations like that, it's like last year, the only stack huff I was willing to do was Edmonds and Connor, because they both had a floor. to where if you drafted them on the same team, 1 week, one of them each week was going to get you 10 points. And for a 6th and 9th round pick, that was good enough. And then if one of them got hurt, now you're looking at a 2nd round pick.
Yeah.
Right. So with wide receiver, to me, it's the same thing. I don't like putting them together if there's still going to be a lot of options if one guy gets hurt. So I'm not saying I would never put 2 of them together, but I wouldn't put 3 of them together. I think it's too much. Even with Wilson on the team, I don't know if I like having 3. I don't think it's potent enough of an offense. Now, the Giants, again, I'm willing to go Daniel Jones with 2 of the 3, but not all 3 wide receivers. And I'm certainly willing to go 2 of them without, because they're such good values. And, Slayton is there, but there's nobody else there. Yeah. There's no tight end.
No, not really.
So that's the thought that I go through. Mad Sox had one more. I've been meaning to put it up for a while. I take some shots on Malik Willis last round, compare him with Hooper late, and undrafted Kyle Phillips. Galaxy brain move, laugh out loud. Yeah, to me, I think if you're taking Willis that late, you're doing it because of his running upside. And I don't feel the need to take another guy who's most likely not. Because, again, think about it. What you're trying to do is catch lightning in a bottle and win a tournament. If I was going to put him with somebody, it would be Westbrook Akeem.
Yeah, that's what I would do too.
All right, we agree. I kind of talked a little more than you, which isn't great. So give me any thoughts that we've missed.
No, I think we've said some really cool stuff. One thing I wanted to talk about too is, and maybe ask you about it, is how do you feel about stacking running backs on the same team?
Well, I just told you the only way I do it.
I'm talking about this year. Are you doing it at all this year? Because there's one
I was willing to do Ramondre and Harris together before Strong ended up there.
Okay.
All right. And James White. I felt like when it was just 2 of them and random 3rd down back, that their ADPs were good enough that they each one of them, I won't say has a floor, because you can't trust Belichick from week to week, but that it was worth the gamble that one of them, I felt like you get enough good weeks out of the 2 of them, and then if one got hurt, you could crush. Well, Pierre Strong's my favorite late round rookie, and I just think he'll step in, so I just don't see that meteoric upside. So for me, it's always, do they have a floor at their ADP, and can they crush if I put them together if one gets hurt? If not, I'd rather just mix and match guys like Madison, Dante Foreman. I'll tell you one that I'm doing, but not on the same team. You can get CMC anywhere from 2 to 5.
Yeah.
Right? So you can build 15% Christian McCaffrey.
Easily, yeah.
Right? If he fails, Donta Foreman proved he has the talent where he can crush, and I don't worry too much about what's the other guy that's there, the rookie.
Trevor Hubbard.
He didn't show me anything.
Nothing.
He'd still play.
Yeah.
But I think that Foreman could crush, right?
Foreman could play.
So my leverage off of those 15% is I've got 20% of Foreman on teams where I don't have CMC. Now I've got 35 to 40% of what I expect to be a very good backfield cheaply. Right? So those are the kind of things that I look for. But I'm really looking, I'm starting to take some Eno Benjamin because everyone's so convinced that the answer is going to be the guy from the Chiefs, Williams.
Darrell Williams.
Yeah, and to me, he's a jag. They see James Conner. I mean, on his best day, he's not a third of James Conner.
Oh, no. If Conner got hurt, it'd be a split backfield. But the thing is, I think Connor will miss time. Connor's never really stayed healthy for a whole year, and last year he even missed some time. So figuring out who that backup is, it's going to be a pretty big one to hit.
And we heard a blurb or two about Eno.
Yeah.
And I liked Eno's college tape. I've drafted some Eno, and it was another one of those ones where I stopped
Mhm.
because I did it the last 2 years. It didn't happen. How long do you want to chase it? I'll give you one. I'm really high on Antonio Gibson.
Really?
Yeah, 7th round, a guy who's going to get 200 carries.
Do you think he's going to get 200
Oh
carries?
yeah, why wouldn't he?
He might, I guess, inside the 20s, and then once it's inside the 20s, then it's going to be Brian
He's
Robinson.
still got talent.
Yeah, I'd take him if he falls. He's like last year's Josh Jacobs. One of my friends was saying, he's just like Josh. So if he falls to, 7th, 8th round, I'll dabble in there, but I don't really take him at ADP at all because I'd rather get AJ Dillon.
I think you could do Singletary and the other guy.
Cook. Yeah.
But they go so close together, it's hard to get them together.
Yeah.
I think one of those guys is going to give you a 10-point week every week, almost every week.
When Kenny Walker was cheaper, I was doing some Kenny Walker Penny. I liked that. Before McKinnon signed,
to me, Penny is so clearly the guy to draft now.
Yeah.
That where I would do that is if they reverse.
Yeah, oh, totally. Not anymore.
And I'm expecting it, right? What's going to happen? Camp's going to start, and it's going to be obvious that Penny's the number one. Same thing with Singletary and Cook.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm not drafting Cook now. I have 21% Singletary and 17% Penny. I've got almost no Walker and almost no Cook. But I expect that to change. Because I think that, and the beat writers, another guy that I like late, and it's not a stack cuff, is Jamal Williams. That's another one where everyone loved Jamal Williams last year in the 11th round. Now he's going in the 17th round, and his role hasn't changed.
Yep, I like him a lot too. And Swift isn't exactly the most durable guy. He can go down again, and then Jamal Williams is going to get a lot more work.
I was super high on Swift last year in the 3rd.
Me too.
Because I felt like he could run between the tackles. And then I felt last year that when he didn't do it that well.
No.
And so I feel like Swift in the 2nd is a bit overpriced. So I've been backing off on Swift. And there's so many other people on that offense I like.
I'd rather get Aaron Jones over Swift at that point because Aaron Jones.
Oh my gosh, I had so much Aaron Jones. Pre-Bestball 4th round. Yeah, but
got a shot to be running back 1, to be honest.
And I like Spiller.
I like Spiller too. I got this advice from a podcast way back when Chad Schroeder was doing, and he said it perfectly. I don't want to get my own handcuffs on my team. I want everyone else's handcuffs on their teams. That's how you build a super team, right?
Right.
So I love starting with the one. Like we were asking, what's my ideal strategy? Anchor running back or start with 2 good running backs, hold off, and then just start picking off all those upside guys. Give me like Aaron Jones, Chubb, Penny, Chase Edmonds, and then like Kenny Gainwell, and then an upside guy at the end. That's an
I wasn't on Edmonds, and lately I've been adding him a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a great fit. They signed him. They're running offense. And that's another one I've kind of done a little bit of. You can do like an Edmonds, Sony Michel mix. Because I don't think Mostert is going to hold up. That guy's good for 3 games, and he's going to get hurt.
And I'd have more of some of these guys, except there's so many guys I like. Michael Carter.
Yeah.
Michael Carter is underpriced for his role. And Ronald Jones. I've never drafted Ronald Jones.
Love him this year.
Never ever drafted Ronald Jones. In fact, KC running backs are decent to stack because they're cheap.
Yeah,
I disagree because now you've got a 3rd guy.
Yeah,
I only stack them if there's 2 of them. Because if one of them goes down, well, McKinnon will play more.
Exactly.
Right. So I would rather build teams to the scenario of this is a CEH does great team. or this is a Ronald Jones does great team. I don't, or McKinnon. I don't need to put those two together, Mad Sox.
I was doing it before McKinnon signed, but yeah, once McKinnon signed, I had to put an end to that.
And you know, that's one where I kicked myself because I was telling Billy, I said, they're going to resign McKinnon. You know they're going to resign McKinnon. I don't know why they haven't so far, but neither one of these guys is a third down back.
No. I think Rojo's going to be the goal line back, and then CH will be like your inside the 20s guy.
I hate to say it, but I think that Rojo is going to outplay him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I think Rojo is a better running back than CEH.
I think he's perfect fit for this team. And I saw a stat. CEH got like 4 or something like that goal line carries in the first couple of weeks and then never got another goal line carry after that. So,
and the year before he sucked in the goal line.
Yeah. So Rojo's got, he's got his deficiencies, but Rojo can put his head down and get the ball into the end zone.
Yeah, but Andy Reid isn't like
Bruce Arians.
Or the guy that coached him before the Arians. He's not going to freak out on a fumble.
No.
Andy Reid is going to continue to mix him in, unless it's like fumble.
Yeah, exactly.
But, he knew when he got Rojo, he was a fumbler.
Yeah.
And anyway, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I got to know you a little bit better. Any final? Tell us about 1 week season a little bit more. Why should someone listen to you guys talk Bestball versus the other 50 people out there talking about? What's your edge?
So I think personally for me and Hilo, I think we bring a really great dynamic. Like you mentioned it perfectly. Hilo is going to bring out the galaxy and the stars. I'm going to try to kind of ground it. And we're both have completely different viewpoints. And it's really good to, see opposite, strategies come together. And then we're always, and like why do you go to a 1 week season? I think it's the best community we have. Everyone is open and willing to help you. Before, I was even, doing podcasts or anything, I would reach out to you. I'd reach out to Hilo. You guys were always more than helpful, So I think that we have like a really great sense of community that everyone, can come reach out to and, send me a lineup and ask me, what do you think I should do better? I love doing that. And everyone's willing to, help you out and at this place. So, really utilize the resources we have.
Yeah, it really broke my heart the way that I got treated there. I won't go into detail, and it's not sour grapes, but because I did really feel like it was a home, and it is what it is. But I wish you good luck there. I wish Hilo good luck there, and I won't be there under any circumstances. So that is going to do it for this week. And I am really stoked. You definitely should come back on.
I would love to.
And we should do a live draft one day, and I think you and I could actually partner on some things. I think our viewpoint on how we maybe do a couple FFPCs together.
Yeah, I'm always drafting, so let me know, and I'm always down.
Awesome. All right, That is going to do it. You can. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on Twitter again, Pavel?
Yeah, it's at do_me_favors.
And that's going to do it, guys. Thank you. We'll
have
see you
a great
soon.
Holiday weekend.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who I have coming on next, but I can't think of it right now. But I have tuned things up over the next month. The guy who won the each of the last 2 years on Underdog, so Liam will be on and Justin will be on, and we'll dive into some deep strategy with those guys. Look forward to it. Talk to you soon, guys.
Talk to you soon. Bye.